So, Donnie, how did your bracket do?
Well, to be completely honest, not great. So I know where you're going with this and rub it in because there's always next year, my man.
Well, I just want to say, as the reigning two-time consecutive NCAA men's basketball office bracket champion at Home Builder Supply, I picked, yes, thank you, I picked UConn over Purdue. Some of you out there listening to us or watching us might not believe that. But if you go to a past episode about a month ago before the tournament started, I held up a piece of scratch paper that said UConn Purdue and picked it Purdue would lose to UConn. And that happened to be true. And my bracket wasn't great, but enough to win. And I didn't
Yeah.
have State going into the Sweet 16.
Yeah, you don't see back-to-back champions much. So hats off to UConn. I don't think that we've seen anything like this in 20 years or so, because it just doesn't happen with the transfer portal and people going to the NBA earlier or just skipping college altogether. Yeah, UConn's really figured out something special. So I didn't see it. I was hoping for an upset, but you dialed in and you nailed it.
And as I said, I've done that twice. I've been at HBS now for not even 2 years. I started in January of 23, and I've won that pool twice. And they're like, "Who is this savant? He can't tell the difference between number 2 yellow pine and spruce, but he can win the basketball pool." I told him it was my way of giving myself a raise, since they weren't going to do it. I said, "Well, this is how I'll get money from everybody else to chip in."
Fair
But
enough.
hey, maybe next year. I won't pick UConn next year. I'll tell you right now, I won't do it because there's, like you said, with the transfer portal, it ain't going to happen. Three-peats are a thing of the past.
You know that's going to be on record as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I'm fine with that. I ain't scared. All right. Well, this is the Carolina Contractor Show. My name is Eric Smith, not only the reigning two-time consecutive NCAA men's basketball bracket champion at HBS, but I also work there doing inside sales. Across from me, Donnie Blanchard, lovely and talented general contractor, also owner of SureTop Roofing and Blanchard Building Company. And we've just given up on saying we're not going to talk about sports one episode. We just always tend to do it. But that's what people who own homes and hang out on weekends and go to big box stores and plant gardens and do DIY projects talk about too. Men and women like talk about sports, and that was just kind of a fun game to watch. But our show, you can get details about what we do on a more regular basis at the website, thecarolinacontractor.com. We got links to the YouTube site so you can watch us on video. We got the Ask the Contractor button, the ATC. If you have a question for a general contractor, Donnie's your guy. He'll answer them. Just send them through that portal. Speaking of portals. And also we got podcasts of past shows that you can download. And we've got dozens and dozens and dozens, and they're all arranged by title. So if there's something specific you want to look at or listen to in this case, you can do that also. Again, thecarolinacontractor.com. And today, what sport will we have power play? Hockey. So we can kind of keep that theme, right, Donnie?
Yeah, and if we get into baseball, man, I'm going to have to lean on you because I like it. I love it. I just don't keep up with it. And I know you're an avid baseball guy, so maybe we can transition and keep it spicy with that.
So really, to be honest, not that big of a baseball fan. I do like the Royals, but usually by the third or fourth game of the season, they're mathematically eliminated from playoff contention. So I do like baseball. I like watching baseball live. And speaking of which, we got the Carolina Mudcats are moving to my hometown, moving in our backyard, literally, next couple of years, because our big warehouse at Home Builder Supply is going to close down and move to a different part of Wilson, and they're going to demo the whole place, a whole block, and build a baseball stadium. It'll be the new team, which probably won't be called Carolina. I'm betting, I do not have inside information, they're going to be called the Wilson Whirligigs. Let's not go any deeper than that. Just write that down. You can't get that website. I tried.
That doesn't even make me want to ask a question.
We'll talk about that off the air. Here's what the power play is about that me and Donnie want to do today. We're going to talk about electric tools, gas powered tools, and rechargeable options, and break down the pros and cons and help you find the perfect fit. Whether you're a weekend warrior, that's more me, a seasoned pro like a general contractor like Donnie here, knowing the ins and outs of these tools is kind of key. And the main thing we want to start off with is the 3 power sources. Why don't you take over that, Donnie?
Well, we did a show and this show is constantly evolving because technology is doing exactly that. But we did a show, electric tools versus gas powered tools versus battery powered tools. And it's funny, maybe that was 2 years ago, but the content on the show has completely changed. Our
Mm.
opinions, I don't know, have necessarily changed, but you know, there. I think you referred to electric tools as the OG plug and play.
Yeah, the original
And
gangsta.
what was the cool fact that you told me off the air about the original drill?
Oh, the first electric drill weighed 15 pounds, and that was developed back in 1895. Could you imagine lugging that around?
Dude, that's two hands, shoulder workout, the whole nine. And yeah, I really can't. And when you mentioned that to me, the first thing my mind went to is, an old computer versus what a computer is now. They had a computer took up an entire room, and now you've got a computer that weighs less than 2 pounds. So
A cell
um
phone.
cell phone, exactly. We've got a computer in our pocket all day, every day. My preacher makes a joke that we have cell phones that can make coleslaw, and we're still not happy about anything. So that's pretty close to the truth. But um, I would say that if you had to break down electric tools, they are consistent. You can always pull that trigger and expect it to go from 0 to 60 immediately. Normally, when you have something that plugs in, it's a little heavier duty than what you would have with the battery powered. They're low maintenance. They don't have oil, no gas or anything, and it's great for indoor use because they're clean. So there's several advantages to plug in electrically powered tools. But one of the things that people don't think about is the batteries are advancing, and so a lot of the things that were a must have with an electric tool, they're getting replaced piece by piece, and it seems like every year the battery powered things take over little by little.
So, Donnie, what do you still use that's electric?
Well, if I had to go on my job site, it depends on what trade is being done at that moment. So I'll take framing into consideration. The framers basically they have a chop saw, which is the slang for a miter saw. They have a skill saw that they're using every second, and battery hasn't caught up to electric when it comes to those because it's plugged into a power source, and you're constantly, I'd say every minute or so, you're constantly using those saws. So if you're working a 8, 10, 12 hour day, electric is definitely the way to go with those. Um, hmm. If you are a trim carpenter, a compressor has to be plugged. Most compressors have to be plugged into a saw service or some form of a power source because the
Hmm.
compressors are powering their nail guns. Same with the chop
Nailer.
saw on a trim site. So several things are still popular in the electric world, but you only need a sawzall here and there. So I would say that you could get by on a battery powered sawzall in most circumstances.
Well, let's move over to gas. That's kind of the modern thing we have that started with the what will we call it? The modernization of the world when we started using gas everything, and because there weren't really steam hand tools around at the time. That's outdoor task. Let's face it, if you think about doing something outside, you're going to put gas and think of a gas power tool. You've got the power, the versatility of gas. They handle everything. And you think of the tools that you use, they're gas powered chainsaws, lawnmowers. They cut, they trim, they knock over stuff, bush hogs, things like that. You think big earth moving equipment, you think it's gas or diesel powered. And for the home,
Hmm.
again, just standard gas. But they can be noisy. They emit fumes. You can't use them in your house. You can't use them, would not recommend using them in a garage. There is some maintenance involved, checking the oil, storing gas, storing fuel, storing the oil, things like that. So I think we all like them. I have a few gas tools that I still use. What do you have? What do you like that's gas, Donnie?
I still have a gas weed eater. I have a big yard, so I think if you have a small yard, electric weed eater or a battery powered weed eater will get you by. I know you say string trimmer. I say weed eater. We're from two different parts of the
Same diff.
country, but same day. But like you mentioned, chainsaws. If you're gonna need a little extra power. I mean, if you're gonna cut some small limbs, electric would be okay. Battery would be okay, but I have a gas powered chainsaw, and one thing that we do on the job site with SureTop is we use gas compressors, and so the nail guns that we use to install the shingles have to be hooked up to an air compressor, and they have electric compressors that plug right into an outlet But when you go to a house, a lot of older homes, they can't support the current pulled from a compressor when you were powering, say, 4 or 5 nail guns at a time. So we just use a gas compressor. And the reference that I'll make is when we talked about appliances a while back, we said people prefer a gas oven over an electric oven. And it's true that gas, or even on an HVAC system, it's true that gas packs more of a quick punch. So if you need to heat that air up faster, you need to heat that oven up faster. Gas is going to do a quicker job. And basically nowadays with the improvement of insulation, you don't need that quick punch necessarily. So the electric has improved because insulation helps out the HVAC system, and just technology overall has improved things like gas ovens or gas ranges. And I don't see gas phasing out if that's your preference, but gas definitely gives you more punch.
Yeah, and I think that you're right. Gas is only going to go away because government mandates it. It's not a people's choice. Gas just has that instant power and torque, and it's more consistent for a longer period of time. Batteries aren't there yet. Will they get there? Maybe, because at the end of the show we got something to talk about that I thought was pretty amazing. But speaking of batteries, cordless rechargeable tools are the third category, and these are literally modern marvels. Cordless tools are powered by lithium ion batteries. They give you the freedom to roam. You don't have to plug it in. You can use them inside. It's the perfect tool for the homeowner or DIY guy. They're convenient. You've got drills and saws and blowers and string trimmers, weed eaters. They're now much faster to charge. Batteries are interchangeable. You can buy one product for a weed eater, say, and it also works on the blower and maybe the drill. And now they've got them with lawnmowers that will use two batteries, and that single battery can be used for another device. Charging is so much easier. Again, throw it in the bag and go. Who here doesn't have a rechargeable drill that's in a bag? I've got that DeWalt one, and the length of time they last is pretty good. So those are the three categories we're going to be talking about: electric, gas powered, and rechargeable. And just because you like one of those three, you should probably measure the performance and the efficiency. And you, being on the commercial side, probably have more insight on that, Donnie, than I would.
I don't know about that. I mean, as far as just the typical homeowner would go, I'm that guy, and I like to fix stuff around my house, and I'm ever so finding that battery powered things are taking over. Every time I turn around, I'll buy a new toolkit, and my old toolkit did not have a reciprocating or a sawzall. It didn't have a skill saw, and it's awful convenient when you're going to a house to do a punch list. If you carry your bag of tools, you've got your multi-tool, your skill saw and sawzall in there, and a couple of different drills. You've got your impact drill, you've got your regular drill. So pretty much whatever you need, you've got at your fingertips right there. And I think the only drawback there is that the batteries, I have a 20-volt set, so they only carry charge for so much. And side note, I have blowers set up around my house and on my front porch and in my garage that are compatible with those same batteries. So that's super convenient. But what do you get? Maybe 5, 6, 7 minutes out of a blower, and then it's done. So I don't think the technology is where it needs to be. But like I mentioned, the convenience trumps everything. I think the coolest thing that I have that's battery powered is at the beach. I have a mower and blower combo, and they both share the same battery. So I bought a steel from a hardware store in Graham, and I have two batteries. I have a charger. It's a quick charge. So basically, the yard usually takes just one battery full, and then I pop the other one in to blow off the sand and everything off the driveway. So I think that the fact that they are making everything compatible with the same battery is a great thing. The drawback is that battery is awful heavy. I'd say that those are the two favorites, but I do see the trend being battery powered tools becoming the thing. This past year, we talked about on a couple of different shows that it's harder for us to get a transformer on a job site. So when we used to call in at the beginning of the construction phase and say, hey, Duke Energy, we need a saw service because we need somewhere to plug in. There was a big shortage about 2 years ago on the transformers. And, the conspiracy theorist in me thought that maybe the subdivision builders or the track builders were getting all the transformers and they just were not coming to us. But that wasn't true. And it's still a thing. And I talked to a higher up at Duke Energy and said, hey, man, when's this going to be over? He said, get used to it, Bubba. This is going to be the way of the future. So I think that things like that happening all across the country are just going to necessitate more battery powered tools altogether.
Yeah, again, it's not that we're necessarily choosing that option. It's kind of being forced on us, and you sometimes have to learn to adapt. Um, also want to talk strategy. You made a statement, Donnie, off the air because we people have no idea how often we chat even right before we record. But you said maybe use battery powered tools for everything you can, but then rent gas powered tools when you need something stronger than light duty. But is that always practical, or do you what level do you consider heavy duty? Like I wouldn't
Right.
go and try to rent a battery lawnmower, chainsaw, or bigger than that even.
Yes, I mean, rent the gas, own the battery, rent the gas, because you can do light duty around the house. And I made that comment directed towards homeowners, not necessarily contractors. If you're a contractor or a subcontractor, you're responsible for finding the tool that works best for your trade. But in terms of the average homeowner, having a nice battery powered set of things that you can use around the house, if you're around the house, you're constantly close to a power supply. So there's that.
Yeah.
And I think that things that are gas powered are usually readily available at the rental center, and it'll surprise you. $30 or $40 a day if you need to rent. Like I rented this isn't gas powered, but I rented a hydraulic jack that was $1,000, and I rented it for about $60 for one day. I used it for 30 or 40 minutes, did what I needed to do, and took it back. So I think
Hmm.
that being familiar with what the rental center has to offer is probably a big deal, and that way you don't have to own and store all these big expensive tools.
You as a owner of SureTop Roofing, you and your men, is there anything you'd love to see that works efficiently in battery power?
They probably have this, but I haven't seen it yet. And it takes all day to install a roof. So I think the battery technology probably has to improve a little more for this. But what I'd love to see is a battery powered nail gun. And one that would work all day would
Ooh,
probably weigh 15 pounds like the original drill. But, that would be ideal. If you can imagine, we have the gas compressor, we've got hoses running
my-
all over the roof. At the same time, you're tied off with a rope and a harness. So you've got the hose in competition with the rope and the harness, and
you
a
say
battery
hose?
powered, I did, but I meant the good one. And a
Okay.
battery powered nail gun would change the game for us.
That makes a lot of sense. I never even thought about the fact you've got so many pneumatic hoses coming up and over and having to step over them. Being on a roof with all those cords would also be something of a safety concern because it's a trip hazard, I guess. But if everybody was cordless and the power was there all day, man, that would be a game changer. You could shave a couple hours off the day, probably.
At least a couple hours off the day, but like you mentioned, a trip hazard, it's safer all the way around. It's cheaper to do that than to run a gas compressor for all the nail guns, and I'm sure that somebody's out there pioneering that technology. I just can't wait to see it.
All right, real quick, Donnie, don't overthink this. Which do you think of the three power sources on average cost the most?
Hmm. I would have to say gas.
Yeah. And I think that's the misnomer we have that gas is more expensive. But if you look around, gas is not always the most expensive. Of course, if you have a big engine, like you talked about, having a jacks or bigger tools in general, that's going to raise the cost. But for something that does the same project, same amount of time, it's actually rechargeable because it's still a new technology and it's expensive. So you can go out and I price checked this and found two-stroke gas powered blowers for just over $100. Now there are rechargeable blowers that you can find for $100 also that include the battery and the charger, but I'm going to call them kind of what I have. It's more of a sweeper. It's good for clearing debris off sidewalks like and driveways, like when you mow the lawn, or as I've said before, I have a pool and I don't want to hook up an electric line or go get the gas powered for a 2-minute job, but I'm not going to rake the lawn with them. It would,
Right.
especially if it had like wet leaves in the fall, it just doesn't have the power to really do anything. Get a gas blower, a backpack blower, which you can find for $150. The cubic feet that they move in a minute is up to 1,200. I mean, that is the way to work. So search those prices and don't be afraid of gas just because it costs more. And don't go electric because if you want to go electric because of a moral thing or a environmental thing, you want to do that solely for those reasons, I don't care. That's great for you. But in construction and in, any business that needs it, you've got to have something that really is effective and consistently works. But anyways, not to go too far on that tangent, we'll do a whole show about that. But just in general, that you can get gas and battery for the same price or even a little less for gas. Electric is usually cheap because it's just a little motor in there that's spinning around. But I've tried a gas propelled mower and I just don't think it works very well in thick grass. I've seen people pushing them and they're bogging down. So I'm going to definitely stay with my gas mower. Uh, but a gas mower is usually cheaper than a battery mower.
Not so fast because it sort of comes down to the pressure washer we talked about a couple weeks ago. When I went through 3 pressure washers, electric that is, and when I got to the steel, I think it's just a matter of buying a better manufacturer. So doing your homework, you get the one at the big box store. Big box store is going to make a contract with whoever's going to sell them the most product at the cheapest price because they're just moving it. They're selling it to us, and price is everything with them. But I think you go for quality. That one that I bought was maybe an extra $50 beyond what I would have paid at a big box store, but I've been using it for 3 years now. Never had a problem. And the same. That's why my dad was a steel guy, and for anybody who wants to look it up, it's STIHL, not steel like you would think with metal. But the steel products seem to be superior. That's what I have at the coast. And I took it through a jungle down there. When I first got it, I went through 2 gas mowers, and no secret that the salt at the beach eats anything metal. So the inner workings of everything gas are metal. And I was on my second lawnmower. I said, enough is enough. I paid a little more for the gas powered mower, but I've been super happy with it. And the very first mow was intense, and it made it through the very first mow. And then if you get that down and you're only talking about maintenance, I fully endorse the battery powered push mower.
Well, that's experience, and I'm not going to doubt that because that's the whole point of trying to learn about these things. And you have more experience than I do. Mine's more seeing people across the street that have one struggle sometimes, and they might have an older one too. What do you think about the packs that you can buy? I know I'm not pushing DeWalt specifically, but you see them. They sell like a 9-tool packs for, I don't know, it ranges at the time of this show around $600. Mind you, 2 of the tools they talk about is a flashlight and like
Right.
a Bluetooth speaker. So I'm not going to say that's a tool, but still, you would have the batteries, 2 of them, 2 chargers. They work for all the tools and 7 of your basic tools. A good investment for especially a new homeowner just to go out and get the whole shebang.
There's 2 ways to look at that. I have that. I have the battery pack just out of necessity because I need to carry it to the job sites to do this and that. And I don't necessarily need something for a long term job, but just a quick fix here and there. It really serves its purpose. The other side of that is if you see those battery packs on sale, it usually means that something else that's better is coming soon. So
Yep.
when you see a $600 tool set that is marked down to $399 at the big box store, do your homework. Don't just buy it right then and there, but maybe go to the car, get on your phone, research, hey, why is this selling and what are they going to get in the future? Maybe 60 volt or 120 volt are going to be the same
Mhm.
price soon. So you have to make that decision for yourself. If you need light duty, I think the 20 volt package is just fine. But if you need things that are heavier duty, you may want to wait around for the 60 or the 100, 120.
I think for the average homeowner, don't overthink it. I bought my DeWalt grief. It's a decade old. It still charges fine. It still works fine. I don't use it every day, but it's not like if you buy the discounted bag of 9 tools that it's not going to work 2 years from now. It'll work just fine. It'll probably work for a decade or 2. And by then, there'll be another technology, Terminator and Skynet and all that. Hey, by the way, it made me think, Donnie, do you know anyone who still uses a plug-in electric drill? I've got one, and I'm not kidding you. It's in our linen closet in the back.
Mm. So once or twice a year, I will. I think things like if you're going to mix up grout or mortar or something that's really thick in consistency in a 5-gallon bucket, it'll burn the motor up on a battery powered drill trying to do that. So I think that something that's thick in consistency that you're going to mix around any kind of concrete, you buy that spade bit that'll mix all that up from the masonry section at the big box store, and those heavier bits and the thicker consistency just don't work well. So yeah, I definitely, I think tile people, they're definitely going to use those for a while to come. And anybody who does any kind of waterproofing or concrete repair, probably common in their world as well.
Excellent perspective. I never thought about the materials that some contractors use that are so dense that they need a lot of torque, and that electric would definitely provide that. Uh, Before we get into a future invention of a sort of batteries, I do want to go over what I have, and then I want to hear some of your tools that you have and what category they fall under, Donnie. I've got, again, I know you're an average homeowner, but you have a bend towards construction too. But for me,
Mm-hmm.
the average homeowner, I've got a gas mower. We just discussed it. You're saying don't put any rain on those electrics. They're just as good. But I've got a gas mower, electric circular saw. I've got electric and rechargeable blowers. It's an old electric blower. I've got rechargeable chainsaw, which, by the way, is remarkably good for a quick job of cutting something. I got the string trimmer, weed eater, whatever we want to fight over. That's rechargeable. Electric belt sander, and I've got, of course, the DeWalt drill, which I love to death. Again, you say gas mowers good. I'm not. I mean, rechargeable mowers are just as good as gas for the most part. I'm not there yet, but um, what do you have in your shed when it comes to those three categories?
Well, I probably won't comment on myself. My dad is the tool savant, and he has much cooler stuff than I do. But things like hammer drills, when you have to drill into concrete or into a basement wall, that drill, it pulls some juice, man. And that's something that was always electrically powered in the past. But my dad, I needed a hammer drill. I said, "Hey, can I borrow yours?" And he has a hammer drill that drilled into concrete. It has 2 or 3 batteries in the pack, and the first, I didn't even need the second battery, but I drilled successfully into concrete, set some rebar, and did my thing without ever having to plug in the first thing. So that was one thing. Another thing that he has is pretty cool. Is he has a gas powered submersible pump, and if you think about it this way, you're on a job site, you get a heavy rain after the footings or the foundations are in, and of course you have an area where water's going to accumulate. You don't have power on that job site yet, so you need something gas powered. But his gas powered submersible pump is very handy dandy, and I'd say on the horizon with the 60 volt and 120 volt batteries, they're going to have things like table saws, jackhammers are available, concrete saws, which are a really heavy duty thing. They're all going to be able to be ran by these 60 volt and 120 volt batteries. That being said, I don't know that the newer technology is not going to take over before that happens. Was doing some homework on what's on the horizon for battery technology, and the word of the day is graphene. I know we talked about this off the air, and you actually dove into that and came up with a really good definition on what that is, right?
Well, and this is remarkable. If this pans out to what is being researched and what they've learned so far, graphene, um, it's a nano material, but I'm going to kind of explain it in layman's terms. Imagine a sheet, a single layer of carbon atoms. Don't worry, we're not going to get too sciencey on it, but it's arranged like honeycomb pattern. Think like microscopic chicken wire. All right, everybody knows what chicken wire is, and the material, it's incredibly strong, it's flexible, and it conducts electricity really well. And it's superhero material because so
Hmm.
many amazing properties that scientists and engineers can take graphene and find new ways to use it because of its conductive abilities. It can make batteries better because it helps them charge faster, they last longer, they store more energy, they use less room. So you could think that your smartphone stays charged for weeks or a month. Your electric car can go much farther. Maybe it'll make it across the whole state. But the thing that's holding back cars that are electric powered is the weight. And if they can find something lighter, thinner, that holds more charge and can last longer, that weighs half the price, EVs automatically become a game changer because that's really the only thing holding them down.
Yeah, agreed. And this technology is already well underway, and everything that I read just seems too good to be true. But it's coming, and they have another comparable technology called solid state batteries, but graphene seems to be the thing. And the thing that I read about that was cool is they have the potential of wireless charging technology. So anytime you eliminate a cable or a cord, that's just a good thing. And that physical connector, you're having to wire that into your house, number one. Then you're having to get this expensive cord. Every day you come home, you're going to have to hook it up. And everybody who has a wireless charging smartphone has seen the advantages of just laying it on a table or laying it on a charger. The other thing I saw is that the integration of smart technology into batteries is going to just allow you to real-time monitor the health of that battery, the usage, the performance. I think that the big thing that it'll do is it'll effectively predict when a battery needs to be recharged or replaced. And no secret that with electric cars or any of this stuff, the battery is the most expensive component. So being able to monitor that, being able to maintain that a little bit better, and then again at the end, being able to anticipate when you might need a replacement is a really big deal.
Yeah, we talk about Bluetooth casually, but they're now starting to put that into certain tools. And the point is the tool can tell you not only its battery life, it could tell you if the setting is off, it could tell you if your drill bit could be compromised because it can read a bunch of parameters. It can tell you, hey, this saw bit is no longer being effective. If you put a new one on, you're going to move through a project faster. So again, there is a little Terminator worry that I have. I always have that, a router's going to come up and hunt me down or something. But I really think that some of these inventions, especially that graphene, if that turns out to be practical to put it in everyday tools, cutting weight down and having a longer charge and having a longer battery life is going to be amazing for business, let alone the DIY person that only needs a battery charge for a drill to last, 30 minutes.
Yeah, I agree. It's huge. And I can't wait to see it. Maybe that'll be the driving component for those wireless nail guns that I mentioned on the roof.
That would be amazing to see something like that really is required to have that power behind it. And so even if they can make the nail gun lighter because of not having such a heavy battery, having both the portability and the weight reduced would be pretty awesome. I'm sure all the roofers are like going, what, is this out yet? Because I'm interested. I want to buy this. I want to get one of these right now. So anyways, I hope this gave you some ideas of some tools you might want to get for yourself, whether it be gas powered, whether it be corded, whether it be rechargeable, and the technology that's coming up on the way. There's nothing wrong. It's whatever works for you, especially if you're just a DIY person, you hang out at the house, or if you're a contractor, as Donnie's talking about, there's some amazing things you can use that are gas powered or battery or electric. And it's pretty cool how the time we live in is giving us a peek at some of the incredible options we're going to have just for power tools. If you want to get more information, you can go to the website, thecarolinacontractor.com, and you can download past episodes. And maybe on a future episode, we'll be able to talk in depth about some of these upcoming technologies that will probably just blow you away. But until then, hit the website, thecarolinacontractor.com, and we will see you guys next week.